breaking down the mathematical intent of humanity. You know, there is a way the world is currently structured that feels almost more mathematical, not in the sense of numbers, but in how everything is arranged, distributed, and controlled. And once you start seeing it, you realize that humanity has been operating inside a kind of fixed equation of inputs, outputs, roles, permissions. Everything mapped out in a way that determines who participates, who benefits, who stays at the edges. And the thing about the kind of this structure is it's always efficient, but also always limiting. Because when the equation of humanity is predefined, people don't really get to rewrite it. They just fit into it. They follow pattern, roles, expectations, and over time that becomes the default way of living. And then you start asking, what if that equation itself is the problem? That is why today we want to talk about break down the mathematical equation, the mathematical intent of humanity. What if humanity was never meant to operate in a fixed structure where a few design systems and everyone else adapt to them? What if that model is exactly what is limiting progress, limiting freedom, limiting prosperity? And that is where this idea of breaking the mathematical intent comes in. Not breaking it in a chaotic way, but in a cautious way, redesigning it, opening it up, allowing more variables, more participation, more voices. Because right now, most people don't have a real say in systems that they live in. They use them, they depend on them, but they don't design them, they don't co-create them, and that creates a gap between people and the structures that defines their lives, right? So that gap is where a lot of problems comes from. So the questions become, how do you close that gap, right? So the answer is co-creatorship. So with Chipies Ecosystem, we are trying to push co-creatorship as the only way for the global world to actually break down the mathematical intents of their environment, mathematical intents of their needs, mathematical intents of better structures, better engineering systems, etc. Not as a concept, but as a mechanism. Because co-creatorship changes the structure entirely. Instead of fix the equation, we now have a dynamic system where people can contribute, design, and evolve the systems they use. It's no longer about the top-down approach. It becomes distributed. And when you distribute creation, you distribute power. And when you distribute power, you restore independence. And yeah, that is where things start shifting at a deeper level because now people are not just users of systems, they are engineers of their own environment. They have a voice, they have an influence, they have ownership in how those things are built and how they function. And when that happens at scale, when co-creatorship in Chipies ecosystem affect different people across the world, we are going to see improvements in systems. We are going to see civilizations improving and upgrading. Because think about it: if billions of people are actively designing, are actively participating in designing economies, infrastructures, governance models, value systems, the diversity of thought increases, the adaptability increases, the resilience increases. And that is how you get to mass prosperity, not by optimizing a few, but by unlocking the intelligence and creativity of everyone. So, because prosperity is not just about the abundance of resources, it's also about participation in its alignment. Who does that? Who and where does those resources align to? So it's people having the ability to shape outcomes that affect them. And that is what current systems don't fully allow. They limit participation, they centralize decision making, they create structures where people are separated from design processes. But co-creatorship backs that. It says no, the people who live in systems should help design them. The people who use systems should have a say in how they evolve. The people who depend on outcomes should participate in creating them. And that is not just ideal, it's necessary. Because without that, you always have misalignments, systems without people, for people, but not with people. And that gap never fully closes. Imagine someone designs your life and you just wait and see it go in that direction. Are you and you say you are independent. So yeah, breaking down the mathematical intent of humanity is really about removing that fixed structures and replacing it with something fluid, participatory, and alive. A system where people fight for their independence not by resistance but by building. People securing their freedom not by asking but by designing. People create value not individual but collective. And when that becomes default, something interesting happens. You start to see people who think differently, people who don't just accept systems as they are but question them, people who don't just follow structures but redesign them, people who don't participate but co-create. So those people, they become the foundation of a new kind of civilization, one that is not only static but evolving. A new kind of a civilization that is not controlled but coordinated, and that is not exclusive but inclusive. And that is the direction. Because at the end of the day, humanity is too complex, too intelligent, too interconnected to be limited by a fixed equation. And that has to happen. That this is why co-creatorship has to try always to be a living experiment of breaking down humanity's mathematical intent, because it needs something to be more dynamic, something that allows it to grow, adapt, and thrive together. And co-creatorship is the only way for humanity to be fluid, humanity to fight for its freedom, to fight for its liberty. Thank you very much.